This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily on a, shall we say, a crisp Wednesday afternoon. Although relatively gorgeous as opposed to what it's going to be for the next few days. I would predict, or I certainly hope, that the next 3 days are the worst that we're going to have to deal with in the entire winter. And I'll tell you what, if you know that it's going to happen, why not have it a high of minus 28 on the day that the Florida Panthers come to town? Welcome back to the Peg, Palmeries. They're in for a bit of a shock, I'm sure, when they get out of that hotel room tomorrow morning. Big day yesterday, though. Obviously, the Jets were right back at it, turning it around against the St. Louis Blues after the memorable but unfortunately fruitless trip to Chicago. Great welcome for Jonathan Toews. No points on the board in the standings for the Winnipeg Jets. I'll be honest, I thought yesterday's game was... it made me very nervous from a Jets perspective. I thought that there was the potential that the reality of the uphill battle that they're facing and getting into town at 2 a.m. after the emotional night they had the night before, playing against a team that had been here, resting, waiting for them on Monday, could have been a recipe for disaster. Now, listen, this was not a game that I think people are going to be remembering at the end of the season when we think back to the best games through 82. But they got the win. Power play was big. Scheifele was awesome. Eric Comrie had a nice game. Nino Niederreiter maybe with the save of the game last night. So they got the win. But, of course, the big story amongst fans on social media and in conversations in the concourse at the intermission was about the Heritage Classic next week. And we got the initial preliminary roster, the first 7 or so players that'll be taking part in it for the Winnipeg Jets. We're going to get into that. And Sara Orlesky is actually going to join us. She sort of commandeered the whole festivities yesterday with Captain Blake Wheeler, who was also back to drop the puck. Nice to see Wheels back in town. And, of course, Mike Keane. And, listen, it's cool that it's against the Montreal Canadiens, a team with such a storied history. But it's a perfect opponent when you think about Mike Keane and, his contribution to hockey. I mean, 3-time Stanley Cup champ, former captain of the Montreal Canadiens, which for an English-speaking dude is a very rare feat in Montreal Habs history. But also, the last 20 years, he's been a mainstay here in Winnipeg with the Manitoba Moose, with True North, and now with the Jets organization. So it's going to be a great event. And needless to say, there were some big names announced yesterday, including the biggest one of them all, which we will get to coming up. Really looking forward to bringing in our good friend, the new father, Marat Tesh. Didn't know when Murat was going to be getting back to the grind. He's been doing a little bit of writing, obviously, but he said he's good to go today. So we're going to talk some Jets with him, and first things first, congratulate him and see how he's doing in the new phase and chapter of his life. A little later on, Thomas Milic joins us from the Manitoba Moose. Looking forward to talking to Thomas about, not only his time up in the National Hockey League, but where things are at with the Moose. 2 wins on the weekend in Laval. He had a shutout in the game on Sunday, I should say. So Thomas Milic will join us as well. And at the end of the program, we will have to get to, with Michael Remis, one of the worst owners' press conferences in professional sports history by The man that brought you 14 years of Buffalo Sabres incompetence, Terry Pegula, reminding us all that it is somewhat incredible that the Bills have been as good as they have been over the last number of years, despite his stewardship. So a busy show. Great to have you all with us. Welcome to everybody in chat, and shout out to all you podcast listeners for making us a part of your day. Before we bring in Reem, huge thanks to all of our sponsors. Of course, our partners at Coolbet Canada. We'll hit the lines later on today. The Winnipeg Jets, tickets on sale now in our section for the last game before the Olympic break against the Habs. WinnipegJets.com/WST. Grab them. We'll see you there. Also want to thank Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports, Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, Uptown Alley, Rollies Transfer, St. Vital Dental Center and Canadian Club, Manitoba Battery, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Little Brown Jug, the St. Beat Mega Million Lottery, and we'll get to a why not question of the day in and around the upcoming Heritage Classic for our friends at Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Michael Remis, get in here. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, staying warm. Nice Jets win yesterday. A lot of excitement for the Alumni Game, the initial rosters, so more information coming out on that. So, doing all right, Huss.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I want to get into the, obviously, the alumni announcement in a minute. But right off the bat, we'll talk about this game. I mentioned in the opening room, I was worried that we might get smacked in the face with the reality of the Jets situation last night. And I did not know. I mean, for the most part, even with the losing, the Jets have been competitive. They've been in the really close games. I mean, they've never quit. And I give them a lot of credit for that. Even through that 11-game losing streak, it felt like maybe they were on the verge of it and they pulled themselves out of it with 4 straight wins. But to lose a game that I think everyone felt they had to have in Chicago, and then to come back so quickly with the travel overnight, I was prepared maybe for a game that didn't look like the usual Winnipeg Jets. But, overall, they hung in there. The power play was really the difference. They didn't, and neither team, to be honest, seemed to generate much at 5-on-5. And they got a nice goaltending performance from Eric Comrie. As I say, this isn't one that, will stand out amongst the others as one of the most exciting or best games of the year. But for a team and a group of men in that locker room that, want to stay alive and give themselves a chance to play a meaningful game the next night, especially considering they lost on Monday night. They absolutely had to have that, and they found a way to do it.
Yeah, it's that power play early where, they had a key power play at the end of the game against Chicago and could not capitalize, but they were gifted a 4-minute power play. It's, in the first period after Isaac Phillip got high-sticked, and they capitalized. Josh Morrissey with a goal. Mark Scheifele takes it to the net. The Jets were up 2-0, and I felt they kind of just hung on for the rest of the game. St. Louis out-shooting them, out-chancing them. Eric Comrie, very good, but the difference, special teams, the Jets going 2 for 3 on the power play, and St. Louis, they got 1 on power play as well. It was a really nice shot that beat Comrie, but credit to the Jets for hanging in there and getting the 2 points and keeping pace with the Blues there at the bottom of the Western Conference.
Yeah, the power play, and listen, I will give Chicago credit. I thought their PK, which is in the top 2 or top 3 of the league, really handled Winnipeg well on Monday night. And that just added to the frustration of the Jets not being able to score and beat Spencer Knight. But when you dig into the numbers a little bit more, special teams has been a massive part of where the team is right now. And, it's not like they've been struggling at the bottom of the league, but a big part of their lofty spot in the standings last year was a number 1 power play that just has not been clicking anywhere close to what it was last season. Many reasons for that, discuss in the chat. But interesting to note that the Jets have only won 5 games this season, Remis, when they have not scored a power play goal. And now 15 wins. I think to 7-2 maybe is the number. Definitely 15 wins when they, of their 20, when they've scored a power play goal. And, to take advantage of a 4-minute minor with 2 in the first period, I thought was incredibly important for the Jets when it came to, getting a lead, playing with it, and, being able to focus a little bit more on defense and, helping out your goaltender.
Yeah, Eric Comrie came in, and he had a rough stretch when he had to fill in full-time as a starter here. But in the last 2 games, he's been solid, pretty good against the LA Kings in that win on WST night a couple Fridays ago. 1 goal allowed in that, and 1 goal allowed last night to the Blues. And a game, it gave you saw these players on the ice, you're like, oh yeah, I remember them from that great playoff series. It certainly did not have a Game 7 level playoff intensity like the last time they played at Canada Life Center. But the Jets needed 2 points. It wasn't the prettiest. Top line looked good. They only got the goals on the power play plus the empty netter. The same guys, Shafley, Connor Morrissey, contributing on all the goals. It's kind of been how it's been all year for the Jets, where they need that top line to score. As you mentioned, they need the power play to score to win, which is usually the top line as well. Although we have seen number 64, Logan Stanley, with the cannon on the power play lately. But hey, they got 2 points. I think that's what matters, and may not have been the prettiest game. What did Morrissey call it after? A greasy one? Look, they're in the second of a back-to-back. Not to make excuses, but you wondered how it was going to be after the emotional come-down of Taves night in Chicago. And ultimately, they got the result they wanted, so they can move on to Florida.
That was never going to be a Picasso, but
no.
They needed to find a way to win, and obviously through special teams they did. Jordan Kyrou scored for St. Louis. Very impressive quick release on that goal. The only one to get past Eric Comrie. That was his first goal. He'd gone 13 games without a goal. Kind of similar to some of the struggles that some Winnipeg Jet players have had. And he's found himself sort of dropped from the top line and really sort of in limbo right now. Interesting to hear his name out there as a potential trade chip for the St. Louis Blues. But you mentioned number 64, Mr. Stanley, yesterday. We did see some time with him on the power play, Reem, and I know you were in the building. I mean, when the PP2 was on and Stan was on, it almost seemed like all anyone in the building wanted to see was them pass it back to the point and let Logan Stanley let it rip. I mean, an audible buzz. And that is something I've been at basically every game for the most part for the last number of years, or since the team came back. Yes, there it is. Winnipeg Stan talk. But it's growing each and every game. And listen, I realize this team's probably not going to be in the playoffs barring some sort of crazy rally. But man, I'm not sure that there has ever been a 180 around a particular player that, and again, I think maybe listen, Stanley's had his critics, and there's a lot of loud people on social media that have been telling us over and over again that, he's not good or whatever. And some of those people are still banging their drum. That's their hill to die on. But as far as, I talk to dozens of fans at every game. I've never seen anything like the turnaround of public opinion on a player. And it gets to the bigger picture that we'll be talking about closer to the deadline as to, are they going to re-sign this player? Are they going to trade him, who will have his highest value ever? But last night in particular, on kind of a quiet, cold night early in the week against two teams that are out of the playoffs, it was electric when he was on the ice and when there was the potential of him shooting the puck.
Yeah, and that's going to be the conversation leading up to the deadline. It just happened. People, get some comments. Why are you guys talking about one player so much? Well, it happens every year when a player is entering the final year of their deal. A key decision has to be made. Are they going to be sticking around long term, or are they going to be traded, at the deadline, or not re-sign? Mark Scheifele was a huge topic, and Connor Hellebuck leading, that period leading into their final season before they ultimately signed on Thanksgiving. And you look at the defense last night, with Neil Pionk out, Colin Miller injured, Hayden Fleury injured, guys have had to step up and play increased minutes. Isaac Phillips played about 6.5 in Chicago, and he had some big minutes yesterday, 9:54 for him. He did take a minor penalty, high sticking, but I thought, looked solid at times, and you wonder if there's anything there. And yeah, Logan Stanley playing 22-26, including minutes on power play too, really taking a bigger role this year as the talk about, okay, are they going to re-sign him or trade him at the deadline continues to grow and grow. But I will say, sitting in the stands when he's got the puck up top on the power play, people want to see the big man take a big shot. And I don't know if there were too many of them yesterday. He got 2 on net. But the guy's got a clapper. He scored 8 goals this year. That's something that brings people out of their seats. No doubt about that.
Well, and listen, T. Will, I'm going to make an example out of you, T. Will. I love T. Will. Don't necessarily always agree with his takes. He's a WST Hall of Famer, is always in here. But like T. Will with this is a perfect example. He goes, as long as you don't look at the analytics or watch him actually play, Stanley's great. I will counter that to you, T. Will. Have you actually watched him this season? Because this is a different player. And let's not forget, I mean, who has he been playing with? He was very good with Neil Pionk at the start of the year when Sandberg was out. And I think that's when people started getting a glance at, geez, okay, maybe this guy has taken a step forward. Now, I mean, I'm the first one that would love to see Luke Schenn find a new home for some return for the Winnipeg Jets. I don't think that's helped him. And then he's playing, with Isaac Phillips. I mean, he is... listen, if you are seriously saying that he hasn't taken a big step forward and hasn't been much better this season, I will say that you're either lying to yourself or just trying to, hey, listen, I spent 5 years telling everyone how much this guy sucks. I'm sort of pot committed and I have to keep going with it. Which is why it has been so funny just to see how popular this guy is right now. And honestly, I don't know. I have no idea where the organization is at on this. And I know many people in the chat will tell you that they know. They don't. Because this is there definitely is an opportunity right now on an expiring asset that, you've had in the organization for a long time with limiting results before this year. That I think that there will be a significant interest in with the way that he's played so far this year to have some return. There is the other side, and you see a ton of people in chat saying this. They put so much into this player. This is the guy that they always wanted him to be. How can you let him go right now? And the one thing I'll say, Remis, and again, this is not coming from a general manager's position. Listen, I want what's best for the Jets. I want whatever move they make to make them better and more competitive in the future. But I will say, as a fan and someone that buys tickets, like, as much as, granted, did drive me crazy at times before with some mistakes, and even this year, I mean, it hasn't been perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but he is he's fun to watch right now and has done a lot of things that have brought fans out of their seats this year, and that matters to teams as well. So I could not be more 50-50 on this right now. I'm not ready to go give a big hot take that this is in all likelihood what's going to happen, because I really don't know. And I don't know, I'll ask you, I mean, how much can change over the course of the next month and a half, knowing that there's the Olympic break? I mean, what is there until the trade deadline? Like maybe a dozen games?
Yeah, when is the trade? It's early March this year, the trade deadline. It's not like March 8th.
March 6th.
March 6th. So I think we're going to see some moves before the Olympic break. And I think if you're the Jets, you have to wonder, okay, where does this guy fit in our lineup? Where does everyone else fit? You already have your second pair locked up in Pionk, Sandberg. And so do you want to pay a third pair D, 4.5 or $5 million a season? Could it be more? And if
there's some sticker shock on that. There's definitely some sticker shock on that.
And if you're Stan, like, do you want to test the market and see, okay, where am I going to go? There were reports a couple of years ago. He asked for a trade. Is he still feeling that way? Like he'd want to explore elsewhere? And if you don't have an answer, if he's signing or not, you 100% have to trade him and get whatever, second round pick or a first round pick, because they don't have a second round pick this year or next, part of the Schenn and Tanev trades. And this team, doesn't have a ton of top prospects available. You need to take some, get more picks so you can have some players to come up, or use those picks and trade them for current players, like they did at the time for, Niederreiter. That trade worked out. Nemestikov as well. But are they going to move on from those guys too? So the Jets deadline has going to be very fascinating, and Logan Stanley name atop of the list.
Yeah, listen, that's one thing that I've been saying for months as when this kind of became to be a legitimate topic with the way that he's played this year, is that they have to know by the deadline. I mean, and I guess if the team was in the playoffs, then you could maybe leave it. T-Will, that's it. Remo sending the Teams link. They absolutely have to know which way they're going before the deadline, or maybe in advance of the deadline. Probably, I would say during the Olympic break. It would be unconscionable to just play out the season and then have him walk for nothing when his value would certainly be as high as it has ever been. Now, and as I said, it's never been more 50-52. I look at my mentions, when anything involving Stan is mentioned, and there are T-Wills that are like, you know what? Nothing's changed. Get him out of here. Get what you can get. And then there are a bunch of other people going, this would be insane for the team to not do what they can do to keep him. So I don't know, like since PLD, even the thing is PLD wasn't even as 50-50 as this. And I don't even know if it's 50-50. I mean, we kind of did the trade him or sign him last week, and it changed 20 points in the vote in one day after one game. So there's a lot to it, and as they say, it's just funny to mention it because in particular last night, and I don't know whether it was maybe a little lighter, probably a few people didn't show up with their seats. It was audible anywhere you were of the sort of excitement that was, especially on the power play when the puck was in and around Big Stan. But the team got the win, moved on. We're going to get to Sara Orlesky and talk more about the Alumni Game coming up in a minute, Remo. But listen, they got 1 of 2. We said they needed to get 8 of 10 in this next 5-game segment, and started off with a loss. So I guess you got to win 3 more in a row, and that starts tomorrow with the Florida Panthers, who, funny enough, are also out of a playoff spot right now, and I would suggest should be a pretty desperate team heading in after a really up and down season, including one that had them give up 9 last week and then had a freaking goalie fight earlier this week and a loss to San Jose.
Yeah, the East playoffs is kind of crazy because if you're not really following the standings, there's a lot of teams that have been perennial contenders in the East that are not in a playoff spot right now. Toronto on the outside. Washington, who had this resurgence last year, on the outside. New Jersey, many people picking to win the cup on the outside, and Florida also on the outside. The two back-to-back Stanley Cup champion with a negative 14 goal differential, team that's usually so good defensively and in net. So I'm very curious what we're going to see from the Paul Maurice led Panthers. They did get Matthew Tkachuk back this week, but yeah, they just coming off a loss, 4-5-1. It's a Florida team coming into Winnipeg where it's minus 30 here, and I know they're not playing outside, but does that play a factor as well in some home ice advantage? So the East really upside down this year with Detroit in, Montreal in, the Islanders and the Penguins, and even Sabres in, Bruins in. So a lot of turnover there, and I'm curious how Florida's going to pull their way out of this, if they what they're going to do at the deadline. But you don't really think, outside of the playoff bubble and the Florida Panthers.
Yeah, well, that'll be tomorrow night's game. We'll dive in on that. Listen, just before we kind of transition from last night's win to the announcements, let's just hear a little bit from Scott Arneal. And, of course, Mark Scheifele was a big star last night's game. Here's Arnie on getting that lead early on and being able to shut the door the rest of the way and hold on.
I think that I'll back it all up. I think the whole game, obviously, that late night, getting here at 2 o'clock in the morning, getting that chance, 4-minute power play, obviously was huge. To get out and get a lead and kind of get ourselves going. Then we had the chance, and when they got their 4-minute, I know they scored, but that second part of that penalty kill that we killed off was large, so obviously to keep it 2-1. But for me, it was a lot of, we did the blocking the shots, getting pucks out when they had to be clear in the front of the net, allowing comms to see those pucks. So there's a lot of stuff, I think, that every line, we tried to play as simple as possible, gain zones, and continue to do that for 60 minutes.
All right, so I got it done. Of course, it was a PP. That was a power play game, as they say. 2 goals early on the power play were the difference. Here's what Arnie had to say about his power play. Having some success after being blanked in a game that they really could have used it on Monday night.
We obviously scored on the first one, JMO shot, but then I really liked that the second unit went out and fired had a few shots from the top. There were some scrambles, or it allowed us, to keep momentum, and then Scheif's line went back out, like you said, and they scored at the end on, obviously a shot from the goal line. Great play, but just if you can keep teams on their heels, you get a chance. Your second power play can come out and kind of wear the opposition down, and then obviously your number 1 unit come back out at the end. That's a big deal. Like I said, you're scoring on your specialty teams twice like that in a game where it's 3 and 4 nights to travel, everything, all the reasons to not be in the game. I thought we did a really good job of getting ourselves there, and Isaac took one for the team, but at the end of the day, that was big for us to score those 2 goals. It allowed us to take a deep breath and kind of get the crowd was into it now and kind of let us move forward from then.
Yeah, Nino Niederreiter continues to be relatively snake-bit offensively, but made a massive save to prevent the Blues from scoring early on in that one. Here's Arnie on Nino's contribution to the win.
He's staying with her. I know it was hard. It was a hard decision for me and a hard decision for him. He wasn't happy about it when he missed the game. But since that point, I think he's recognizing that he has a way that he has to play every night, and we're seeing that. His hustle to come all the way back on that. Obviously, he could have let up, but it was a great play by him. And then the other side, it's tough because he got that great chance from Scheif and hit the post. And those chances are there, and he's getting more of those opportunities, and because he's putting the work in and he's playing to his identity.
All right, so there's Arnie on Nino. Now, I believe this was Connor that asked this question. I mean, just looking, like, Big Stan had 22-26. Remo, I would imagine that might be a career high in ice time. I mean, I'm sure maybe there was an injury game or something at one point, but I mean, that's a big, big number for a guy on that third pairing, and did have 154 on the power play. And of course, had to move over to his offside because Elias is out. He was moved to the right side with Phillips. Here's what Arnie had to say about Stan playing big minutes and on his offside.
Yeah, it's hard for wall plays, both on the D zone and in the offensive zone when he's got to cross his hands over and playing on the wall. But it also opens up that one-timer. He's in that one-timer position a lot, and Sammy was trying to find him there. But the rush is a little bit different for you. So there is a little bit of a learning curve to him. I know last night he was doing it and probably looked a little bit more comfortable tonight and felt a little bit more comfortable. And that's big when, with all our injuries, what's going on our back end, and for him to slide over there and do what he had to do, that was large.
All right, there's Scott Arneal, and just a quick one for Mark Scheifele. 3 points on the game, a beautiful goal on that on that second power play goal, just roofing it over Joel Hofer, who's been so good against the Winnipeg Jets. Here's 55 on holding on for 2 points.
Yeah, it was huge. Combs played fantastic, made a lot of big saves when we needed him to, and just to get the win is huge for our group. Just got to keep it rolling.
What did you do right to hold that lead today?
First of all, Combs made a lot of big saves. We needed him to make a big save. He made it, and that was big. But we just kind of stuck to our game. Didn't try to do anything too crazy, and just stuck with it.
Full marks to Eric Comrie. He had the ugly game New Year's Day to ring in 2026 against the Maple Leafs, but has bounced back with 2 really strong performances. Of course, we were all there on Friday when the a couple Fridays ago against the Kings when the streak ended. And I think we all agreed that Eric Comrie certainly deserved to probably be one of the 3 stars. And then real strong performance last night when the team needed it as well. All right, we're going to transition over to the Alumni Game in just a moment. But do want to thank our friends at Uptown Alley and remind you that while this weekend is going to be ridiculously Arctic cold outside, pop by Uptown Alley for a hell of a great time on the weekend or any days, 7 days a week with tons of 5-pin lanes, 10-pin lanes, a state-of-the-art arcade, incredible food and beverage options waiting for you at 1301 St. Matthews Avenue. Truly fun for kids of all ages. Best place for birthday parties for kids, teens, and adults, and an amazing spot to hold group and corporate outings with an incredible selection of food and beverage options for you and your guests. Check them out online at uptownalley.ca or give them a call at 488-0000. And you can also take advantage of their bowl and play special every day after 9 p.m., $20.49 for 90 minutes of bowling and a $10 arcade card. Our friends at Rolly's Transfer are ready as we move into the new year. And if you have a move in 2026, head on over to Rollys.com and let them take care of all of the most stressful parts of the move. They've been doing it for Manitobans for over 60 years. Family-owned and operator are the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. Click on Request an Estimate and put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and then let them know when and where you're moving and what needs to be moved. And the friendly staff at Rollers will turn around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they are famous for. Rolly's Transfer, the most trusted name in the game. Hit them up at Rollys.com and let them take care of all of your moving needs in 2026. Our friends at St. Vital Dental Center are well on their way into the new year. Of course, Terry and the gang have been serving generations of Manitobans at one of Manitoba's most longest and trusted dental clinics. They've got a beautiful new facility now at 167 St. Anne's with state-of-the-art equipment and convenient free parking right behind the building. And, of course, can take care of customers and clients from 6 months to 99 plus with a full array of dental services from cleanings and checkups to things like dental implants. They do it all. Check them out online at stviteldental.ca. Make an appointment and make sure to say hi from the boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk when you head down there. And a big cheers to our friends at Canadian Club, Canada's favorite Canadian whiskey, the original since 1868. And, of course, the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Still got a few months to go before we're back in Princess Auto Stadium enjoying a CC and ginger ale. In the meantime, though, you can pick up the great taste of Canada's original Canadian whiskey, Canadian Club, at your local Manitoba liquor marts. And while you're there, see if you can grab any limited remaining stock of the limited edition Canadian Club Cranberry Ginger Ale. It was such a hit over the holidays. You can find that in 4-packs at liquor marts and in 473 milliliter singles at your local beer store. Big cheers to our friends at Canadian Club. All right, well, Remo, as much as there was a big game last night, big announcement yesterday at 5:15 p.m. before the game. Longtime Jet captain Blake Wheeler was back in the house, along with Mike Keane, who will be the captains for the Alumni Game. And what a lineup of 2.0 Jets that were announced that will be taking part in the festivities, including the name that was on everyone's lips. Will he or won't he? Great news. Big Buff will be back as a part of the festivities.
Yeah, we hadn't really heard a ton about this Heritage Classic coming up. We just know the date, the opponent, and we were wondering about an alumni game, and we got the announcement yesterday that they were going to have this preliminary roster. We're all waiting. We speculated on the show, and a pretty cool press conference with Sara Orlesky hosting Mike Keane, who will be the captain of the Montreal Canadiens alumni, and Blake Wheeler, who is in, and they both dropped the puck. Pretty cool. So they announced all the names. Very exciting. We were wondering if Dustin Byfuglien would be a part of it, as the fans hadn't really given him a full send-off, a proper send-off after he left abruptly after the 2019 or 2018-19 season. And we got the list. So this is exciting. I think it's going to be a fun weekend. Heritage Classic 2.0. Jets Canadians. So we got the Jets list, the Canadians list as well, who's on it. Mike Keane, Patrice Brisebois. I was excited for Winnipegger Dale Weiss to be a part of it. Connor and I joked, Paul Byron and David Savard, we thought they were still playing in the NHL. But no, they've both been retired. So this is going to be a younger alumni game, a chance to celebrate, the two teams that opened Winnipeg Jets 2.0 history here at here in Winnipeg for the first regular season game ever.
We're going to talk about it coming up with Sara Orlesky, but for you podcast listeners that can't see the graphic, Blake Wheeler, Andrew Ladd, Brian Little, Matthew Perreault, Paul Stastny, Chris Thorburn, and Dustin Byfuglien named to the group. And, of course, Mike Keane, former Canadiens captain, will captain the Habs team. And I'll tell you what, the Jets better be ready to go. I had the opportunity of going head-to-head with my old nemesis, Gary Lawless. We were celebrity coaches for some charity game. I don't even remember what it was out at the Iceplex. But I had Keane on my team. And Gary had done some nefarious moves and basically managed to steal a couple of our good players. And we were getting worked pretty good. And I can tell you that even in a game like that meant nothing, Keane wasn't having any of it. So he'll be ready to go, always in impeccable shape, and obviously so connected to the city of Winnipeg and the organization since his time after his NHL career playing with the Moose and now in player development with the Winnipeg Jets. Just an absolutely perfect group. Let me put out the why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray to all of you that are with us live today. And certainly if you're listening after the fact, hit us up on X or Instagram at Sports Talk WPG. We've got the first 7 names. I think most of the big ones that we really hope would be there are on that list. But who else would you like to see added? Now, I know there'll be a Solani. Focus on 2.0. I mean, Blake Wheeler is making this team along with Andrew Ladd. So I'm assuming that this is going to be an alumni game of 2.0 Jets. So of the 2.0 era, who are the other players that you'd like to see involved in that game? Couple ones off the top of the head for me is Pav. I certainly hope Pavlik will be the goalie for that. I mean, I know he gave us some highs and some lows, but again, this is just about celebrating that era and the players that played so much, and certainly Andre Pavlik would be there. Toby Enstrom's an interesting one. I have no idea what the relationship between he and the organization is. Of course, Maurice benched him in the final game of the Western Conference Final against Vegas, and we never saw him again. I don't believe he's ever been back. I haven't heard of anything. So that would, I think, be really nice to kind of bring everything together full circle. Maurice is long gone, if that's what he was mad about. And HRR. I want to see hockey-related Ron Hainsey on the list as well, Remo. What about you?
The one name I didn't even really consider, Paul Stastny, as a name, but he was here for a short time, but a really good time, and it was a huge part of that 2018 playoff, and twice, 2-time Winnipeg Jets. So that is certainly exciting. Person that I was thinking, you mentioned Toby Enstrom. Did they bring back Jim Slater? Would be one for sure.
I think they got to have the GST together. Like, I know Tanner Glass, I think, was only here for that 1 year.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you talk to anybody that was around for the magic of year one, the GST line, it still might be top 3 most famous line in Jets 2.0 history based on that 1 year. And they were only basically a 4th line.
Yeah, the Ladd Little Wheeler line. Wheeler talked about them being together.
Kevin Hayes, T-Will, come on.
Isn't he still playing? Does he have a contract? Is he on
He's on a contract somewhere, yeah.
It's funny, you mentioned Ron Hainsey. I mean, he was a guy who was criticized for a lot here for his salary. He's making a lot of money when he was here, but then left and went to Pittsburgh and won a Stanley Cup. Same thing with Johnny Oduya as well. I mean, talk about bad first impressions for him. How about Michael Frolik? What's he up to these days? Tim Stapleton, we've had him on the show. He keeps in touch with Wheeler. Is that a guy who would get an invite?
Stapleton would be great just for the...
Yeah.
Put it this way, getting together with the fellas, hilarious, very popular guy. and to get in front of microphones. Yeah. By the way, T-Will, Kevin Hayes still with the Pittsburgh Penguins. I don't know whether he's injured right now. He's only played 23 games, but you just say the name Kevin Hayes, and all I think of it is him pulling that puck out of the net to prevent us from going up 3-0 in that series against St. Louis, and that will be that way for the rest of my life.
Yeah, he was the best player in Game 5, and if that game went differently, maybe we would be talking differently about the Jets, who lost to the Stanley Cup champion Blues that season. Other names: Anthony Peluso is a fan favorite when here. Grant Klitzem as well. Michael Hutchinson, we had him on the show in the summer. And I think you said Kyle Wellwood for sure, Adam Party being named. So a number of names. I think it should be exciting. Give those guys a standing O for, returning to Winnipeg. And it is it's at the arena, the Canada Life Center, not at the stadium, the Alumni Game. Yeah, that was the big announcement yesterday.
Oh, I totally missed that amongst the excitement of all the players that'll be announced. And that'll be actually really cool for those guys back in the barn that they all played in. Yeah, for me, definitely Adam Party. We need the Party dangle back. Just looking at some other ones: Sam Gagner, Marco Dano. Not sure what's up with Marco Dano. Joe Morrow for his famous whiteout goal.
Yes,
that would be interesting. Joe was always a fun guy to talk to. And what about Burmy?
What's Burmy doing these days? Actually,
I think he's still been playing. I think he's still, if I'm not mistaken, playing in the KHL.
He's on the Shanghai Dragons. He's got 1 point, 1 assist in 17 games this year.
Seems like he's just about ready for an alumni game. Let's see. We've got the Olli Jokinen, Antropov, and then there are a couple of reaches here. Ishiboy Bruce, can we get Par Lindholm back for the alumni game?
Yeah, we'll get Mark Letestu in eating mustard packets on the bench, something like that. Going into the real, lower end of the games played with Jets 2.0, but hey, they're all memorable guys who made an impact here, and people do remember them for whatever reason.
All right, have some fun in the chat with some of the other former Jets that you'd like to see in it. Let's welcome in Sara Orlesky. Of course, Sarah's had a very, very busy week. She was in Chicago on Monday night. Cannot wait to see the runway piece that they'll put together, but got a chance to catch up with Sara for a few minutes about Monday, as well as the big announcement yesterday, and we'll have that for you right now on WST. Marat Tesh coming up next. I got to say, this was probably one of her busiest weeks of the year. Sara Orlesky, fresh off a trip to Chicago Monday night, the big press conference yesterday, joins us now. Great to talk to you again. How are you?
Oh, it has been such a busy week, but it's been a great week. It's been a lot of fun, so I am doing very well. How you doing, Huss?
Doing well. Nice win last night, and and listen, a really exciting day, I think, for the organization and for the fan base yesterday. But just before we kind of dive in, because that could take up a lot of time, I want to ask you, you were there. I know I cannot wait to see the runway production that you and your team are putting together for Jonathan Toew's return to Chicago. You don't normally go on the road, but you were there because that was a very special day. What was Monday like?
Oh, it was very busy. It was fantastic, to be honest. From the moment, and I said this on the pregame show, from the moment the doors opened, it was no surprise, a steady stream of 19 jerseys, but whether that be from Blackhawks days, UND days, Team Canada, it was just all over. Everyone had signs that they were giving out. I give full credit to the Blackhawks as well for the job that they did, not only just in preparing, obviously, the video, but they had so much social content related to it. And I was really curious as to what the reaction was going to be. You knew that it was going to be positive and that they were going to be showing a lot of love, but to what extent? And so I think that the fact that it went, almost 4 minutes in terms of the ovation, every time, this was what got me, was that every time you thought, okay, it's quieting down a little bit, somehow it just gained steam again. And then they just kept going. And so I can only imagine what it must have been like for him, because the emotions of everybody that was in the crowd and watching it, It hit all the feels. So for him to take something like that in and to be showered with that sort of love and appreciation, even though he knew obviously how much he meant that fan base and that city, I think to see it displayed to him again was pretty remarkable. I thought full credit to the Blackhawks fans for what they brought that night.
Well, as I say, we'll look forward to the runway, which I think will be a unique access to that that no one will see. But, listen, it was a disappointing loss for the team, not able to solve Spencer Knight. But did you see him afterwards? Like, I just wonder how, once it was all over, probably a pretty big exhale for a guy that I'm sure had been thinking about that since the day that he took his first shift as a Jet.
100%. I think, there's certain ones that are marked on the calendar. First game as a Jet, there was obviously a lot of discussion about him playing Chicago for the first time, but nothing like when you actually go back to the United Center and not knowing. He asked me, we were talking about just what was going to happen after the game, and because he was going to obviously try to meet up with some of his friends and his family that was there. And he looks at me, he goes, "Do you know where you meet friends and family when you're with the visitors?" Oh. So I don't know. But it was not knowing those sorts of things. But you walk around that arena. I mean, eventually, there'll be, I'm sure, some sort of lasting monument to him. But you walk around that arena and there's still him up on the wall in various spots. And so I think that it was emotional for him. I think that it'll be good for him now that it's done and that box is checked as well. But I also think there's probably some relief that going in, he's been playing his best hockey of the season.
Big time.
It would have been different. Let's be honest. It would have been different if he had been going back and he'd been in that fourth line role, or all the conversation had been about how he was struggling and that, the return hadn't gone the way that anybody had hoped. And so now you look at the way that he's playing and the way that line is playing, that second line. I thought they were the best line for the Jets in that game. I think that it probably added to all of it. But I think that there's probably some relief that now he can play, and that the center of attention isn't necessarily going to be him.
Credit to the team for turning it around quick. I mean, got back at about 2 a.m. and then get a big win yesterday against the St. Louis Blues. We'll spend a lot of time talking about that over the rest of the show. But I mean, the big story yesterday was before the game, the announcement of the Heritage Classic Alumni Game, and Blake Wheeler was back and dropped the puck. And I mean, Sarah, the list of players that they've announced right off the bat with Big Buff and Brian Little and Matthew Perreault, amongst others. This is shaping up to be, we remember how special 2016 was, and it was a different time because we were just used to having the team back and starting to create new stars of the 2.0 era. And this seems to be, the opportunity to sort of really celebrate the first 10, 15 years of the return of the Winnipeg Jets with some of the players that became household names here in Winnipeg. Well,
and that was something that I said to Blake when we did the announcement and we did a short Q&A after, because he spoke about 2016. He's like, to be honest, I don't really remember the game. He goes, what I remember is everything around really the alumni, going and listening to the hot stove that had Gretzky and had Howard-Chuck and had all of those names on there, and listening to those stories and everything. That's what he remembers. And so I said, well, that's you now. Like, how does that feel? The fact that you've, not to make you feel old, but that's the way that it's segued now, that there are going to be people that are looking, you going, I can't believe that, we get to hear some of these stories. And certainly even in the announcement, the reaction to Dustin Byfuglien being part of that preliminary roster, I think there's going to be so much anticipation for it. And I already saw some people online saying that they need to see a Lad Little Wheeler line out there at some point. And I think it's great to be able to see those guys come back and, embrace it. Because to me, there's just, when you think about Winnipeg Jets 2.0, there have been a number of different players, and obviously a number of ones that are in the current roster that figure in so prominently to the 2.0 history. But those original years, and then you add in some like Paul Stastny, the 2018 years, the ones that aren't playing that are able to come back, I think that it's going to be a really great opportunity for Jets fans to be able to, just relive some of those early years and what we loved so much about that time.
You know, we were talking about this yesterday before it was announced, and I mean, I knew Buff would be the showstopper, assuming that he would be on.
Yeah.
I'm particularly excited to see Brian Little come back. When you think about the circumstances of the way that his career ended, but also, Sarah, I mean, I'd have to go back and check the schedule, but in his 4th or 5th final game as an NHLer before the horrible injury, he was scoring the overtime winner outdoors in Regina in the other Heritage Classic. And, you know, he was such a part of the glue of this team. So it was great to see him, and then Perreault and Chris Thorburn as well. We'll see whether Glass and Slater are added, and they'll just pull up. The GST line has to be together.
We were giving a list. We were joking around saying that there are those that you want to see just because you want to be able to interview them because you want to hear the story. So that GST line would be fantastic, even though, I mean, he didn't play here for long. If you know, there's certain ones we always enjoy hearing the stories of Tim Stapleton. So, I mean, different, one of the best storytellers out there, hands down. So we'll see what comes of the roster as it continues. Again, this is just a preliminary one. Obviously, a number of more names will be added to the list between the Jets and the Canadiens. But yeah, it should be great. But the crowd, the reaction, whether it be on social media or in person, when you saw that Dustin Byfuglien was going to be included on it, you know that you know how much that made people's day.
The thing that is sort of mind-blowing when you think, and obviously it makes us all feel old, because I mean there's a generation, maybe 2, of hockey fans here that have grown up with these players.
That does make me feel really old.
That we're talking about right now. But what's nuts is that, you know, you look at this team right now, and the core of this team, Josh Morrissey, Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, I mean, all went to battle with these guys for multiple seasons, and we're right there when we did this the first time. And I'm sure it'll be a real special week and weekend for those guys as well, outside of the fact that they'll have a big regular season game played in front of a full house at Princess Auto Stadium the following day.
Well, when Blake spoke about how it's kind of like a family reunion, you're getting everybody back together, it's got to feel that way, or I imagine that it will feel that way for a number of the current players, as you mentioned, that were a part of that group. And yeah, you think about how the team has evolved over the years, but that core group that exists right now with the Winnipeg Jets, because they were drafted with them, because they have spent so long in the organization, I mean, that was their era too. But at the beginnings of their career. So I think it'll be great for fans. It'll be great for players as well.
I'll say this. The guys better be ready to play, because the captain of the opponents, Mike Keane, and the Montreal Canadiens, I will say this story. Gary and I, at one point, and I can't remember what the event was, but it was some charity hockey game where they had put the teams together, and they said, okay, you guys are the guest coaches. So I was the coach on Keene's team. And through probably some nefarious dealings by Gary, he had like worked the rosters or something like that. And there was a couple really good guys that weren't pros that were on there. And our team was taking a beating a little bit. And you would have thought that this was like Game 6 of a Stanley Cup final for Mike Keane. He was out there and he was pissed. He was whacking guys. I mean, this guy still has a level of intensity that I don't think will ever leave his body. So I will say to the Jets that are suiting up in the Alumni Game, get ready for the best from the captain for sure, and whoever Mike Keane brings along to play with him.
Well, we were joking yesterday, and he had said to me that he wanted to know what the officiating situation was going to be. Was it going to be
it's already going
similar? It was similar to when he played, or now? Because if hooking and holding is allowed, you better watch out.
Where are the refs from? We want neutral officials.
What era you were. That's right. What era? What rules are we working by?
You know, I will say this. You know, and I'll be honest. I think of Mike so much as a NHL legend, but also a Winnipeg guy. And you think about his time with the Moose and his time with the organization. like the time as the captain of the Montreal Canadiens, which is one of the most incredible honors you can get in the sport, so long ago. I mean, that is not where I start when I think of Mike Keane. But what an amazing way to tie him and his presence in Winnipeg as a three-time Cup winner and everything that he did, and such an important part of this organization for the last 20 years, along with such a marquee event. Yeah,
absolutely. I love the tie-in with it. We all know that anyone that's had the opportunity to speak to Mike knows that Keener's not big on being in front of the cameras and likes to stay back for it, but you want great storytellers that'll go along with that weekend. If we can convince him to share some stories as well, that they'll be fantastic. But it's such a great tie-in, I think, with all of it. And he certainly, every time you go through, what a career he's had. Actually, the last time that the Jets played the Avs in the playoffs, on one of the walls outside the visitors' room, they have a picture from the parade when Keane was a part of the Avalanche and won the Cup. And it's great because I took a picture of it actually and sent it through to him, because he's got his jean shorts that come down to the knees or below the knees. And it
big jorts guy.
Oh, 100%. I think I might actually still have the picture on my phone, because right away, as soon as I walked by and saw it, I started laughing and said, well, we're going to need to get the camera out for this one. So it'll be great. The perfect person in conjunction with this to tie it all in, to be one of the faces of the Canadiens alumni.
I know people are going to be asking, any idea how the other players and additions to the team will be rolled out?
That I don't know. I imagine that it'll be closer to, but I don't. This was the initial list. I know that Blake and I think Andrew Ladd is also kind of spearheading as well, as they try to get more guys on board and reach out. So I'm not sure how it'll be rolled out over the coming months and leading up to October, but stay tuned, because based on this, I think that once you get, it starts to get a little bit more of the word around and everybody can figure out their schedules. How could you not want to be a part of this and get back together with the group? Yeah, what an awesome weekend that's going to be here in Winnipeg on the 24th and 25th of October for the Heritage Classic. It'll give you a ton to work with for future episodes of Runway, for sure. Well, could you imagine? Maybe we could do a side, of going, okay, so this is the runway that we're going to air for everybody, but this, the unfiltered runway. Can you secretly have Buff mic'd up and just have him not know? I mean, that's it. I'm sure you'll have plenty of meetings there in the offices downtown to make that all up. But speaking of runway, before we go, I know you're working on the Taves piece. Just fill people in on what's up right now and what they can look forward to coming out of the trip to Chicago. Yeah, well, we're trying. So Carter, who is editing it right now and putting it together, is hard at work. He is going to be on that computer all night, because we are trying to turn it around for tomorrow on the broadcast. Yeah, so it's a lot of work to try to get it done in short order, but we really wanted to. We didn't want to wait, obviously, with just, people still talking about the emotion that went along with it. So trying to get that turned around for the broadcast, but we were able to have Jonathan agreed to be mic'd up for it. So we have some of that as well, which I think just adds to it, because again, we saw the emotion on the face of him when everything was going on, but to be able to get a little bit more of a glimpse of what his actual day was like, I think will be key for everybody. And then, as always, so that's Runway with Taves. And then, as always, we're working away on Home Ice and to bring Jets fans even more content as we continue on and head into this Olympic break. If you have missed it, folks, what are you doing? Get on over to the Jets website, the Jets YouTube channel. It is all there, and we'll all look forward to a very special edition on Taves' return tomorrow. Good luck. I'm sure you guys have a lot of work to do, so I'll let you get back to it. Sara, thanks so much, and we'll look forward to catching up with you soon at the rink. Appreciate your time. Always appreciate it, Huss. All right, great stuff with Sara, and you're all going to be excited for our next guest. The new father, Marat Tesh, is ready to go with us in just a moment. Hey, folks, don't forget, tickets are on sale right now for the St. Boniface Hospital Mega Million Choices Lottery. Get online to stbmegamillionchoices.ca and grab your tickets right now. And if you do it before
the 29th of January, you'll be eligible for literally everything. The grand prize speaks for itself. One of 5 $1.5 million dream home options, or $1.25 million cash tax-free. A life-changing amount for sure. Try and be Manitoba's next millionaire. But there's some incredible early prizes as well. The winter bonus is worth over $73,000. 4 shopping spree winners and $40,000 cash as well, or an amazing vehicle, 2026 Ford Escape ST, valued at $53,000 plus $10,000 cash. And then the ultimate bonus with the deadline of February 12th, you'll be in for that. 8 ultimate shop winners of $4,500 cash or $5,000 shopping sprees. And then there's the World Cup experience. This is the one that I would kill to win. Tickets, hotel, airfare for 2 to a 2026 World Cup game in Vancouver, valued at over $10,000 plus $2,000 cash. And then, of course, over $280,000 of additional early bird prizes. You can get your tickets in person if you want at Red River Co-op or London Drugs, or go online today to support the amazing work and research at the St. Boniface Hospital with the St. B Mega Million Choices Lottery. Again, the email, stbmegamillionchoices.ca. Got to thank our friends at Princess Auto for their great support. Of course, Princess Auto is synonymous with Winnipeg, headquartered and founded right here in the Peg, and now serving Canadians coast to coast with 3 locations here in Manitoba, where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is waiting for you at Princess Auto. So pop by and see them, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, out in Brandon, or shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. The gang at Chud's Power Sports is loving the winter. And why wouldn't you, when you can kick off 2026 on the trails and with the best in power sports, including sleds and off-road vehicles from Chud's Power Sports. Right now, check out their new website, chudspowersports.com. You'll see a Polaris promo right now where you'll get up to $4,000 off select off-road vehicles, or $3,000 off select snowmobiles, plus $250 in free parts and accessories. Financing as low as 0% for 60 months. Chud's Power Sports is the power sports superstore. And right now, the feature is snowmobiles, Arctic Cat, Polaris, timber sleds, snow bikes. And of course, you can start getting ready for summer as well. And think about boats and bikes and motorhomes and more. And don't forget, they've got amazing ice shacks for ice fishing as well. Check them out in Gimli, at the corner of Highway 8 and 321, and 231. And if you hit their on their website, make sure to hit the top right corner. You'll see a link for e-commerce store. That's going to take you to truenorthparts.ca for the best in parts that you'll need, but also amazing deals on clearance gear and accessories. Shout out to our friends at Chud's Power Sports. We'll be cooking up our NHL Chud's Power Sports Power Poll coming up a little bit later. And hey, the deep freeze is here, gang. Is your car ready to get through it? This might be a time to pop by and see Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery, Logan Avenue, Dover Court Drive. Free battery testing if you need it. They'll let you know how you're looking. And if you do need a new battery for your car or truck to get through the teeth of Winnipeg winter, you'll get the best prices in town, period. Beating the pants off the big box stores. So save time, save money, get the best in customer service with Manitoba Battery, and shop local at the same time. And if the car's not starting or you can't get away, just holler at them or order online at manitobabattery.com, and they'll be happy to arrange delivery to you anywhere inside the perimeter of Winnipeg. All right, we got to talk some Jets. We got to talk life. Let's welcome in our pal Marat Tesh, who I can now officially on air congratulate him and Haley on being new parents. Murat, how are you doing? Must be a wild few weeks for you, my friend.
Absolutely a wild few weeks. Doing so well, over the moon, completely in love with this little baby girl that is in our lives. And like, man, you go through so many different thoughts and expectations of what it's going to be like I got the call from Haley that she was pregnant between games 3 and 4, Jets versus Blues last playoffs. You know what I mean? And like, when did you and I talk about this? A month ago? Like, I held on to this in such a way. And now that she's here, it's just like, we got the best baby in the world. Let's go. So happy. So happy to be here. I don't know what I'm saying, Huss. I don't know what I'm saying, but I'm happy to be here.
That, you know what, I can tell. I can just feel the love. And it's awesome. And you know what, we talked about this on the show, while you've been gone for a few weeks and we've missed you. And, your piece in The Athletic where you were talking to the Jets about being new fathers and, what can you gain from them was such a unique and fun piece that I think everyone really enjoyed. But let me ask you, now that you're a month or so into the operation, what have you learned maybe that you didn't expect, or has it all just been smooth sailing?
I got to be careful about talking about how well she eats and sleeps and does all of those things. Like, we were joking before this, like, there's no way I was as good of a baby as this baby is. So, like, knock on wood that, it stays that way. But in terms of the journey and expectations, I anticipated being in love with this kid, being like obsessed with this baby, and I am. But I think that maybe, like, I'm more obsessed with Haley than I've ever been. And that's a pretty cool thing to just like see your partner go through. Like, childbirth is crazy. She grew a person. Like, you know what I mean? And then brought her into the world. And then to watch somebody do something you'll never do or experience or what have you, and go through it with like the great attitude that she did, and baby comes out, she's on mom's chest, and Haley's already talking to her like they're old friends. Just like, yeah, I think I've been really struck by how much I just believe in my teammate as we go in through all this.
Well, listen, everyone's so happy for you. The piece in The Athletic was great. Just seeing some of your missives on social media or through the chat has been great, and everyone's real happy for you. Now, I know the schedule's a little different and the responsibility is a little different as a new father when you're sort of taking the time away. Have you had a lot of time to stay on top of what's happening with the local hockey team here? And listen, the losing streak was miserable. It finally ended a couple weeks ago. You rattle off 4 in a row, blow a 2-goal lead against the Leafs on Saturday night, and then follow that up with the regulation loss. Sort of felt, I think, to a lot of people that were just starting to get a little bit of hope. It was a big-time reality check Monday night especially. But again, in a really tough spot, coming back at 2 a.m. with a rested team waiting for you in Winnipeg, found a way to win yesterday on the back of the power play. Where are you at right now on the Winnipeg Jets as they find themselves passing St. Louis right now in 30th with, 33 games left in the 25-26 regular season?
Yeah, I feel for them. They're swimming through quicksand right now. That's how I begin to see it. That losing streak got too long. The number of games that they were in and had chances to close out but didn't, there's too many of them. Like, it's at that stage. And I feel for them because I keep looking for signs, and I have been watching all of this. The only difference is instead of at Canada Life Center, I got a baby on my chest, she's sleeping, we're watching on TV. I keep looking for signs that they've bailed, that, they're going to short the back checks. They're going to play with a little bit of BS in their game. There's going to be a little bit of selfishness here. There, all those little bad habits that creep in, and I can't find it. I do find that oftentimes they're not good enough, and that's a fact. And I often found towards the end of that losing streak that they got really twitchy, right? Like, towards the end of those games that they were giving up leads in, the decision-making was off from star player to fourth-line player. They're in a bad spot, and, few wins here, few wins there. I just think they've dug too deep of a hole for themselves this season.
To be honest, I really had that feeling, and I've been the same way. I mean, particularly going to the games and sitting, in and around the fans. And I was so amazed, on the night that we had our WST group up in the 316, like the losing streak was still going. They had just lost that ugly game to Edmonton the night before. And I didn't know what to expect when we got to the rink, and the way people were behind them. That was such a special night in the arena, to be honest. I think it proved a lot of just how much this fan base supports this team through the good times, but also through the bad times. I mean, the worst losing streak we've seen in the 2.0 era. But I had the feeling, and I was interested to see what we saw last night, because the disappointment of losing a game that, in my opinion, you absolutely had to have if you wanted to have any realistic chance of kind of continuing the run and not taking a step back, was the game in Chicago. And then, leaving late, 2 a.m, getting back and firing it up against a Blues team that had been here since their game in Edmonton on the weekend. Last night I thought was going to be a real test of whether this team had the, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, character probably isn't in the right one, but still the belief or willing to go and do what they had to do. And listen, that was not a game that we'll be talking about, years down the road or anything like that. But the power play got going, and they found a way to win. Contributions from a number of people, particularly Eric Comrie, who I think has really bounced back well from that ugly game on New Year's Eve, or New Year's Day, I should say, against the Leafs. And listen, I mean, it's probably in all likelihood that the high percentage that it's going to be too little too late. But to your point, last night, another good example of a team that, maybe had some adversity and was dealing with a lot of things. You kind of understand if they weren't at their best, but they found a way to win a game that at least, certainly I think within that room, gives them the hope that, hey, let's move on to the next one and see if we can do it again.
Yeah, it was a test of their resilience to get so little sleep, to play a second half of a back-to-back, and there's travel involved. And to close it out, I agree with you. That game wasn't a beauty. My baby fell asleep, and I was kind of fighting it a little bit towards the end of it as well. But they got that 4-minute power play early, and they delivered, right? Scheifele makes a big-time play for that second goal. First one, they set up Morrissey from the blue line. And the guys that you hope are going to deliver, right? And this time, no collapse, no BS turnaround at the end of the game. Okay, great. But Huss, if you and me hopped in a car and we're like, okay, we're going to go to Brandon. It's a 3-hour drive, right? Depending on how you drive. It's a 3-hour drive, except you come to pick me up at my house. I'm like, hey, this baby's driving me crazy. Give me an hour. And then we hightail it to try to make up time on the road because we want to get there in 3 hours. And you step on it. You're driving 140 because I made you late. And we get the wrong light right before we get to Brandon. So we missed the 3-hour mark by 30 seconds. Was it the light that cost us, or was it the hour that I dicked around before we got out of here?
It was the hour.
Exactly right. Why am I talking like this? Because you go through all these losses, all the games they give up. The Minnesota overtime loss, DeMello's penalty, that's a point. The Toronto loss, it was 4-1 Winnipeg. That's 2 points. The Vegas overtime loss, it was 2-1. Stone scores last minute in the second period. It's 3-2 Winnipeg with 5 minutes left. That's another point. Edmonton, it was 3-1 Jets, 2 points. The Toronto overtime loss, that's another point. And you know what those 7 points add up to? And these are not just, they should have won this random game in November or October. These are games they were in control of and were staring down 2 points. You know what that 7-point difference is? That's where they sit today with all their misery all the way up to wild card 2. So if they get the vibes going, if they feel good, if they put together a run and they fall short by a point or two at the end of the season, and we're like, they lost to Colorado in April. It's no, that was not the issue. They will have only themselves to blame for what they gave away during this time. I've been away largely. So credit to them for St. Louis, credit to them for not quite giving up. I believe in the disposition and the resilience and character it takes to do that. They're in a tough spot. They're in a miserable spot right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, I always say that, it's the regulation losses that kill you. And I mean, you can add in taking 2 and turning it into 1 is also a big part of that as well. And yeah, listen, man, when we do the autopsy on this season at the end of the year, and I've done similar things like you've been doing, it's a bit of a torturous exercise, to be honest with you, going through, all of these games. How is a team with this much talent, with the players that they have in them, in the situation that they are in? And You look back, and in particular, I mean, the 11-game losing streak is the perfect example. I mean, there will be no bigger one. We will look back at that, and I mean, you can take 5 of those games as you just did. And I mean, that could literally be the difference for an entire season. But they are where they are right now. And, I'd said to Reem on Monday, coming off the Toronto game, which was, another game that, you're up 2 goals in the third period and you end up only getting 1 and not 2. But I think, at that point, you could still look and say, okay, since the LA game, they're 4-0-1. They had a possible 10 points and they got 9. You can live with that, even though you're frustrated with what happened on Saturday night. But going into this Chicago game, you had Chicago and St. Louis, and then at home, the Florida Panthers, who are getting Matthew Tkachuk back, but they're still outside of the playoffs, and the Detroit Red Wings, who've been awesome, and then start a road trip against the New Jersey Devils. And you looked at those 5 games and said, okay, well, I mean, I think you have to get 8 of 10 points. If you're going to continue, and then you lose that game against Chicago. And all of a sudden, now, I mean, I guess if the team rattles off 3 wins in a row, and we're talking next week about the team going into Tampa and Florida on a 4-game winning streak, and, that'll certainly push them a little bit closer. Just, some teams are going to lose. The issue is that, with the losses and the way they stacked up, I mean, you're talking about needing to do that over and over and over again. And, even if you are the biggest believer in this roster and the players there, I mean, there is just a reality to the grind, especially of this season with so much hockey in such a short period of time. And, there's not enough sand, it seems, in the hourglass left to really kind of flip the script in the equation, which, of course, brings us to how management handles this next little while, because I would suggest that there's some easy decisions if you've got takers for some players on certain players on expiring contracts. But the 2 most fascinating guys that have created, one in particular, have created a conversation that we haven't really had on this program for the last couple of years. A resurgent Jonathan Toews, whether he all of a sudden is a trade chip. Does he want to go somewhere else and play? Is he planning on playing next year? Is the chance he comes back? All of that. And obviously does have no move if he even is interested in doing that. And then, of course, the Logan Stanley conversation, which gets more interesting. I was speaking earlier today. I mean, you could probably hear this on the TV last night, but I mean, Stan was out there on the second power play unit. And I mean, you could hear the crowd. Literally, all they wanted them to do was get it back to Logan Stanley and let him fire the puck. I mean, it's been a fun watch to see what he's done this year. But man, does that make for a difficult, I think, situation and decision-making process for both sides, to be honest, because his timing is perfect. He's having a career year right now, going into unrestricted free agency. He's become a real fan favorite here. There would be very disappointed people if he was moved. And then at the same point, the organization feels they put so much into this guy. Do you want to bring them back? And if you do, what does that mean for your blue line? You got Josh Morrissey needing an extension in a couple of years. Dylan Sandberg's making some big money. That's all on the left side. I mean, where are you at right now with given the plight of the team right now, the thought process on both Toews and Stanley as it pertains to keeping them, trading them, and what might be able to come back?
Yeah, I mean, the easy way out for the analyst is to say it depends on what the offers are, right? And that's cheap. It's true, but it is a little bit cheap. So let's talk more. Jonathan Toews, part of Winnipeg's struggles this season, I would say, are that it took him till January to get going. And Adam Lowry was out until he took a while from surgery, and then it took him a while to get going. And I would argue he's not yet. So Winnipeg's bet on Toews and their struggles down the middle is part of what puts them where they are right now. But to Jonathan Toews' credit, look at how he's played for the last few weeks. Suddenly he's looking like that middle six center. He's part of, on some nights, the only 5-on-5 line that's going if Scheifele and Connor aren't getting it done. I like that line. And all of a sudden you're thinking to yourself, well, geez, if this is who he is and Winnipeg uses him in moderation, Is there a 1-year deal to be had that brings him back? And then I guess it depends for him, because I think the Jets will just show him as much respect as they possibly can. I think that that's maybe the decision more for from the Jets' point of view than what pick they get back for him. I think it's about what's more important to him. The fact that he made it back to the NHL and got to do it as a homecoming, or the chance to contend and look for a 4th Stanley Cup. If it's the Cup, he's got to go. That's not happening here. It's not happening this year. And I would argue, as much as I believe in them as a playoff team, I'm not seeing a Stanley Cup here in Winnipeg next season either, unless a whole lot of things go well. So that's got to be a trade. If it's the homecoming, I think that the player we've seen for the last few weeks is worth looking at in a 3rd-line center type of role, in a 4th-line center type of role next year, because my goodness, does the good version of Jonathan Toews look legitimate. And if this is something he can keep up, that's something. Logan Stanley has, for me, I mean, so many different angles. One, you read the dad's piece. He was phenomenal in that. Logan Stanley arriving at camp in painted nails because his 2-year-old daughter thought it would be a fun way to spend an afternoon. His attitude about that, absolute superstar. I want him around so I can keep talking to him. He's a really good dude to speak to. So that's one angle. I think the more pertinent angle is this sunk cost conversation that everybody has. And it's like, well, they traded up in 2016. They put all this time into him. They waived other guys. Sunk cost is a problem. If you are only signing him because you gave up assets for him in the past, that's a dumb reason to sign somebody. However, sunk cost is a problem if you overplay it. The only thing that matters right now is Logan Stanley is a pending free agent. Do you value him for the Winnipeg Jets or not? His history doesn't matter. Like, if he helps regardless of what they've given up to be here. From that angle, Morrissey Sandberg, there's your number 1 and number 2 lefty. He is not a top 4 defenseman on the Winnipeg Jets, regardless of his offensive heater. This guy's not going to shoot 20% for the rest of his life. I love the offensive confidence. I love the idea that he's at his best, a better than average number 5 or 3rd pairing defenseman. He can contribute. He can jump into plays and all that sort of stuff. But let us not get carried away with the 20% shooting binge while watching the St. Louis Blues game and seeing Nino Niederreiter make the highlight reel for saving that goal behind Eric Comrie, and it's a bad pinch by Logan Stanley that leads to that 2-on-1. His defensive game has improved, but not nearly as much as his offensive game has, and there's percentages there. I love the dude. I think that he'd be great in like a $3 to $4 million situation, better than like a solid 3rd pairing guy. But this $5 million a year talk that people are pushing around, you're wasting assets on that because he's not a top 4 defenseman on the Winnipeg Jets.
I haven't gone here yet, but while you're here, and I know you got to run in a couple minutes, I think it's important to discuss when we're talking about this, the long term, the other guy in the equation, it's Dylan Samberg. Everyone couldn't have been higher on Samberg coming out of last year. They didn't get the long-term deal done. He was injured at the start of the year. How, where are you at on Samberg this year? I mean, has this been a step back? Is this just sort of the same that he's been last year, hampered by injury? Has he taken a step forward? I mean, what are your thoughts on Samberg, as that long-term guy, based on kind of now that we've got, some more games played, as Stan's sort of become the talking point on the blue line?
Yeah, for me, there was a real struggle with Dylan Samberg's start to his season. When he came back from that injury, he didn't just step back in and immediately excel in a top 4 role. He wasn't crushing it right off the hop. But this is a player that I really do believe in as a top 4 defenseman. His defensive acumen is there. He shuts down plays. He reads them exceptionally well. You don't see him get beat in those same type of read situations. I think the Winnipeg Jets' best case is that they do eventually sign him long-term to be their top 4, like their 2nd pairing left defenseman. If they feel like there's a risk that that's not happening, then you got to mitigate it a bit. But lately, talking about guys whose offensive confidence has stepped forward, you got the rush against Chicago. You got the breakaway against St. Louis. He's not delivering on the score sheet, but he's also not going on a 20% shooting bender. I think that he's the guy on your second pair for an extremely long period of time, I don't really head forward with doubts about Sandberg's ability.
Yeah, well, that's because you're right. I mean, if, listen, Stanley's going to get a big raise wherever he is next year. And considering that I can't imagine any circumstances that doesn't involve the Jets making a huge play to keep Josh Morrissey as a Jet for life, that's a lot of money on the left side of your blue line if you're doing that. Just on the way out, and this is super quick, let's just say Stanley's been at the level. There's no terrible games. There's no incredible games. He is what he is right now. Or if they're talking right now, what would be a return for Stanley that you think that would make it worthwhile for the team to move on, knowing that there's no tomorrow if he goes to unrestricted free agency?
Yeah, for me, based on his roster spot, third pairing lefty, and sort of what I project, maybe he's good at that role. If you can get a first round pick back for this player at this stage, I think that's worth it. I think that you can sign third pairing left defenseman with upside. I think that those guys exist around the National Hockey League. Winnipeg sometimes drafts them, though there isn't an obvious guy right there. If you can get into a first for him, I think that makes sense. Just based on that roster spot. If we're talking about a legit top 4 guy, that's a different scenario. You need more. But I think that would be a great return, as much as I do value the guy and his fit in the room and all those other things as well.
Well, too, I mean, I think, the combination of the size, the offense that he's brought this year, the fact that he's 27 years old, and people look at bigger guys that have taken a long time to really come into their own. I know that's the fear of a lot of fans that have seen him have the season that he's had this year compared to the guy that we'd seen in previous years. And that'll be attractive, particularly I think of teams like the Sharks, like young teams. Ryan Reeves is going to be around forever. To bring a guy like that in that could fit in, in the bottom 6, bottom 4 of your blue line and move forward. Anyways, Murat, I'm sure you've got a diaper to change or something. Thank you very much. Congratulations again. It was so great to have you back on the program. All the best to you, Haley, and your new third as part of Team Tesh. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, thanks. Hope I was halfway coherent.
Dude, yeah, you're the best. Good. You're the best. Everyone, and by the way, about 1 million congratulations to you both in the chat. We couldn't get them all in there, but if you want to go back in there, I mean, everyone was really excited to have you on the program today and feels so much joy for you guys there at your humble abode. Have a great one, my man.
Thanks, Huss. Thank you.
We are going to chat with Thomas Milic, who's headed to the AHL All-Star game, coming off a big win for the Moose and the biggest test in the American Hockey League coming up this weekend. Just before we do that, tomorrow, back at it, Jets and Panthers. We will have the lines for Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, both on the program tomorrow, as well as on our social media channels. So make sure to stay tuned to that coming out of the morning skate. Of course, Clean Line, for 40 years, has been your local leader in residential and commercial plumbing, heating, and electrical. Proud sponsors of the Winnipeg Jets and the official plumbing service of the hockey club, captain approved by none other than Mr. Adam Lowry. If you need plumbing services, heating, or electrical, lean on our friends at Clean Line. Cleanline.ca is where you'll find information on all of their services, as well as you can schedule an appointment. And don't forget, much like Adam Lowry's got the back of the Jets, Cleanline has yours with 24/7 emergency services. Write the number down, 204-500-2001. Anytime that you need it, Clean Line is there for you. Huge thanks to Jeremy and the great people at Clean Line for their support of WST. All right, slower night tonight, although we do have a bunch of games in the NHL. Jets back in action tomorrow, and of course, Championship Sunday in the NFL on Sunday with the AFC and NFC Championship games. No better place to get together with your gang to watch the game than your local Boston Pizza. Ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, the game on the big screen. Great prizes to be won at BP for both NFL and Winnipeg Jet games. And if it's too cold for you to get out of the house, you can order the great taste of Boston Pizza online at bostonpizza.com. Great deals waiting for you at Royal Sports right now as we get into the teeth of winter. The Olympics just around the corner. You're going to want to get jerseys and gear to support Team Canada in Italy. Royal Sports is your spot for all of that. Tons of great Canada gear for the upcoming World Cup as well. Not to mention Winnipeg Jets merchandise, the rest of the NHL, NFL, Major League Baseball. You got it. The biggest and best hockey section in town for all of you players. Great deals right now in the stick section and more. And of course, snowboard season is here. Planning a trip or want to get up to Spring Hill, Royal Sports. Talk to the guys. They said the snowboard department has been insane for the last few weeks coming out of the holidays. So for all your snowboard needs, Royal's got you covered there as well. 750 Pembina Highway. Follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merch drops and sale information. All right, Thomas Milic just about to join us. First up, though, a big cheers to Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, coming off a real successful weekend in Laval against the Rocket for the Manitoba Moose. All-star bound goaltender Thomas Milic joins us now on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Thomas, great to have you back on the show. What's going on?
Yeah, no, great to be back as well. How you doing?
I'm doing well. First things first, congratulations on getting the All-Star nod for the Moose to head out to the All-Star game early next month. Tell us how you found out and what it was like getting that call.
Yeah, a bit of surprise, honestly. I never really knew how they picked those or what the timing was, but we were just at practice in Laval there before the weekend, and we were doing our stretch circle at the end, and I got thrown into the middle, didn't know why, and Mo, our coach, just says, "Hey, Millie got the nod," so all the boys were fired up for me. That's pretty cool.
You guys seem like you've got a pretty tight group. So many young players, in similar positions in your career. Getting that sort of love from your teammates as well, especially at the positions, got to mean a lot.
Oh, absolutely. Having those young guys on the team is huge, and also just the veteran guys that we have this year. They're always willing to hang out with us, and it really just feels like one big group. So pretty cool having a group like that.
Now, tell us about the weekend in Laval. I mean, you and Dom split the starts. Two important games after you'd kind of been win one, lose one for the last little bit. I mean, to go on the road and get the 4 points, I mean, how big was that for the club, and how did it go from your eyes?
Yeah, no, those are huge statement games, not only for the team, but for Dom and myself. So I think just being able to go into that barn and that atmosphere and really just take over those games was pretty cool.
Now, I got to ask you about your time up with the Winnipeg Jets earlier this year. I think the Hellebuck injury kind of caught a lot of people off guard just because, he played the full game on Saturday night. And then all of a sudden Monday we find out what he's having surgery and what's happening. Take us back to that, getting the call or the nudge. Hey, by the way, you're moving down the hall. Get ready for the National Hockey League. What do you remember about all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was only a couple days earlier we had heard rumblings that something might be happening, but no details at all. And then all of a sudden, after a game, I was just told I was, like you said, heading down the hall, and nothing but excitement from there. I called my parents right away, and I was just excited for whatever was to come, however long it was.
Well, I mean, you got into 3 games. I mean, got your first start. What does that experience do for a young goaltender at your level, knowing that at some point you're going to be back with the Manitoba Moose, but once you got back and kind of removed from it, how do you look back on your first stint in the National Hockey League, and how has it helped you as you get back to business in the American League?
Yeah, I think going into it, I just tried to take every day as learning experience. Being able to be with those guys and actually feel a part of the group, because obviously all those guys are super friendly during training camp and everything, but actually being able to go on the road with them and spend all that time in the locker room together, it's cool seeing how they all operate. And then like you said, getting able to get into my first taste of action there was pretty cool, and just really lights that fire and makes you want to makes you want to get back there as soon as possible.
This will not surprise you or anybody, but Eric Comrie's a big favorite of ours. I mean, he is a guy that honestly, I like bringing him on the program and just talking during NFL season about what's going on with his fantasy team and all this other stuff. I mean, he is about as much of a positive vibes guy as there is. But tell us about sharing the goalie room with him for 3 weeks and, what you both learned from him and what it was just like working with him and how it was, being the guy that got to get in when he was out of the net and the way kind of he supported you.
Oh, it's so cool working with Combs. He's the man, obviously, and he's always got something to talk about, as most people know. So, I enjoyed every second I had with him. Off the ice especially, but on the ice too. Like, the guy just has a motor. Like, he's got the Prius engine that just runs forever. So, I love watching him play and his work ethic and practice and everything, and a lot of stuff that he does. I think my game is a lot more similar to his than it is Hellebuck's, and I definitely learned a lot and try to take it back to my time with the Moose here.
The time that you get to spend up there, obviously you're around the team and the players and the NHL run. Wade Flaherty's also done an unbelievable job with the guys. I do wonder. I mean, you guys have the unique opportunity to be in Winnipeg, throughout the year, often when the team is here. Do you guys work with Flats at all, like when you're in the American Hockey League, and how different is it? And just maybe what was his role helping you when you were up with the Jets?
Yeah, we don't have a lot of day-to-day with Flats when we're in the AHL here. We got a great relationship with Drew McIntyre, though, down Moose here. And, Flats was awesome, though, the time I got to spend with him and, really just see how he operates and, the day-to-day of what those guys do and how they dissect video, how they, just really think about the game. Because, Kelly and Combs are such good thinkers of the game. And, if I can just take anything away from those guys and Flats as well, it's going to help me a lot.
Thomas Milic of the Manitoba Moose with us here. He'll be playing in the AHL All-Star Game on February 11th. Some big games coming up in the meantime, though. And, I mean, it's got to feel good for you and especially some of the younger players that were cutting your teeth in the AHL and a couple of tough years the last couple seasons to find yourselves right in the thick of it, right in the playoff race right now. How different is it being a team that is not having a massive hill to climb and being right in the middle of the race at this point? And just thoughts on where the team is at right now heading into this weekend?
Yeah, I think just biggest difference, as you can probably imagine, is just the vibes. The guy, everybody's in a great mood these days, and it's cool having something to chase like that. Even though we're in the race, we want to be on top of that race. So I think we're just taking it day by day, and each weekend's a new challenge. So I think we really, like I said, had a statement weekend against Laval last weekend, and we got another top team coming up here. So we're gonna do our best to keep it rolling.
Well, let's get to that. I mean, I know they had a recent loss, but you look at the Grand Rapids Griffins. They are 30 wins, 3 losses, 2 in overtime, and 1 in a shootout. I mean, this is as incredible a clip as you'll find literally in any professional league. Tell us what it's like being around practice with the team, with the coaches, knowing that you are getting ready for the biggest test in the league on Friday and Sunday at Canada Life Center.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Having a team like that to look forward to, and knowing that you could be the team that adds another couple losses to that record. So, I think it's nice having a full week here to prepare for that. Lots of time for practice and for video, and just getting yourself mentally ready, because there's all those battles within the game, in your own head, and battles with your own guys on the ice. So I think we're gonna be pretty well prepared for that one.
Thomas, you've got to probably have a unique perspective on this, because everyone at the American Hockey League level is working every day to try to make it to the NHL. When you're a goaltender, there's one of 2 spots on a team that you might be able to take. Little different for forwards or defense. And, Danny Zhilkin, who, I think at the start of the year might have been at least perceived as maybe a little further down the pecking order, certainly earned his spot. And, obviously he hasn't been in the last couple of games, but looked good. What's it like in the room when you see a guy that, has done everything he can to put himself in the best position to help the team and is rewarded with a call-up?
Oh, 100%. That's something that, like you said, I have a different perspective where I see the work that guy puts in and day out. And, it's pretty cool to see him have an opportunity like that and, doing so well while he's up there. So, I think, it's the same thing with Sal and Phil there going up as well. And, all the boys in the room are just juiced for them. And, it's cool seeing the hard work pay off.
We've seen you Phil, Isaac Phillips, of course, who got called up a couple games ago and has made his first 2 starts, while Elias has been under the weather. From your perspective, as a guy that sees a lot of them in front of you, how would you describe Salamonson and Phillips and their style of play and what they bring to the team to people that maybe didn't get a chance to see them a lot in the A?
Yeah, I think if you put yourself in the shoes of a goaltender like myself, those are guys that you have no problem having in front of you at any point in the game. Those guys are super skilled with the puck and, can obviously create in the O-zone, but, they're also guys that are willing to put their face in front of the puck and, do whatever it takes to give you a helping hand. So, nobody deserves it more than those guys.
And with the call-ups, and I mean, listen, it's unfortunate that the Jets are where they are in the standings, and I think we'd all agree it's kind of shocking with the talent on the team, but whatever. I mean, it's sports, and sometimes things don't go your way. Does the fact that there seemingly could be more opportunity moving forward with the big club, as well as seeing some of the teammates get called up and get opportunities, does that give a little bit of extra juice to some of the guys in the middle of a long season, often when you're spending a lot of time practicing midweek before going and playing a hectic schedule on the weekend?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's really going to admit that that's on their mind all the time, but I think everybody knows that, there's obviously potential for guys to get called up this season. And, every single practice is important like that because, somebody's always watching and, you want to give it your all every single day and be ready for that chance if you do get it.
Thomas, great to have you on the program. The games are going to go Friday night and Sunday afternoon at Canada Life Center. The Grand Rapids Griffins, the class of the American Hockey League, 30 wins in 36 starts coming into town. This is going to be a great series. We'll bring Remis in afterwards. We're going to have a chance for some folks to win some tickets to the game on Sunday afternoon. And then heading out for the All-Star festivities. Now, I was just looking before you came on at the All-Star setup. And I believe, it's the 3-on-3 tournament like they've had before?
Correct, yeah.
What's that like for the goalies? Because let's face it, I mean, it's all about, no one cares about defense at all. Sometimes at 3-on-3 in general, which I'm sure you would agree on that. They're looking to score. But, man, that's got to be fun, but also somewhat of a challenge going in and playing 3-on-3 with no defense against the best players in the league.
Yeah, no, my mind, it's a potential for some really big saves.
Yes.
That's all I can really think about because, obviously there's so much skill at an event like that. And like you said, not a lot of defense going on. So, you just got to put your battle on display. That's all you can really do.
Hey, listen, before I go, I always especially during these times where the team's at home and, it's just a lot of practice in between these games on the weekend. Who are the fellas that you're hanging out with the most? And when you've got, you're at the rink all day and then you got the evenings, what are you guys doing together? What's the number one activity amongst you and some of the fellas on the Moose to get through some of these winter nights?
I mean, honestly, we try to go to Jets games whenever we can since a lot of the younger guys live downtown here. But no, I think we got a really good group of guys that all live in the same apartment building here. So today's actually my roommate, Dylan Anhorn. It's his birthday today. So we had a little lunch with him and then probably some cards, maybe a movie going on later. When it's this cold out, there's don't have a
Yeah.
great answer, but
well, listen. I mean, I would suggest that the indoor stuff over the next few days will be nice. This could have been a good weekend to maybe be on the road, but hey, you know what? It toughens us all up, and Grand Rapids, they won't be ready for what's waiting for them in Winnipeg. Hopefully, outside and on the ice with you and the Manitoba Moose. Thomas, congrats again on the great season so far. The NHL call up, the All-Star nod, and we'll look forward to these games on the weekend for you and the Moose against the Griffins. Continued success, and let's do this again soon.
right on. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you. There's Thomas Milic, Moose and Griffins, Friday and Sunday. And as I said, we've kind of been paying attention to this Grand Rapids record all year long. I think they may be technically in a bit of a slump because I think they got to about 28-1-1. So maybe they've been softened up just in time for Thomas and the boys to take care of business on the weekend. Of course, moosehockey.com for tickets. Our boy Dan Fink will have the call at moosehockey.com. And as we bring in Michael Remis, we're going to have some tickets coming up for the game as well.
Yes, winnipegsportstalk.com/contest. For anyone listening, that'll be open for the rest of the week. I'll hand them out after Friday's show, but if you want to enter now, winnipegsportstalk.com/contest. We had some issues with the website yesterday. They've all been resolved. Good to go. Put your email in. You get extra entries for signing up for the mailing list, following us on Instagram, or you can just take the one entry for putting in your email. And yeah, we'll email the winner the tickets. So exciting stuff there. They're pretty good seats too, Huss. They sent us.
Yeah, no, they did. They did. We set up in style for the weekend. So we'll put that out, and then we will announce the winner on say Friday's show. Set you up for a fun weekend, and as I say, it'll be great to be inside the rink on the weekend at places like Uptown Alley, because this forecast is only for the hardiest. Update on that. I said it was banned early on, but we need to just lean into it and embrace it. If there was ever going to be a day that Winnipeg was going to have a daytime high of -28, let it be the day that the Florida Panthers are here. And that is tomorrow. So Panthers in town for that game tomorrow. We got -28 going down to -32 at night. Friday, not much better. Saturday, not much better. Essentially -27 is the warmest it's going to get after today until next week on Monday. So govern yourselves accordingly, bundle up, and be ready to go. Coming up in just a second, I do want to get to our Chud Sports Power Poll for the National Hockey League for this week. We're gonna have to move on. We'll have a fun topic, I think, for our Friday Power Polls. Now that the NFL is down to just 4 teams, and again, of course, Chud's doing a great job. If you haven't seen and you haven't been catching WST Sunday Live with Connor and Liz on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m., they've been doing a phenomenal job of their Power Polls. A real creative touch to it. Some really fun topics, so you'll definitely want to check out on that. And we'll get to the cool bet lines in a minute as well. But Reem, we've talked a lot of hockey. Thomas was great. So much fun to have Murat on, and very, very cool just to see all the wonderful comments for Murat, and congratulations in the chat. But I did not want to forget to get to this story out of Buffalo today with the Bills press conference with owner Terry Pegula and Brandon Bean, the now president of football operations, getting the promotion from general manager, while Sean McDermott, the head coach, walked the plank for their loss in OT to the Denver Broncos on the weekend.
Yeah, that was a real surprise. Well, maybe not a total surprise. I think the surprise was they kept on the GM who had built the roster. I guess you can say, they needed some change, not being able to get over the hump. You've seen that with other teams firing, a good head coach and moving on. But it seemed like it was just a a fast decision made with not a lot of thought from Terry Pegula, saying he saw the players upset and someone had to go. Someone had to pay the price for their playoff failure when Josh Allen was the one who turned the ball over, 4 times, including that egregious fumble at the end of the first half. But I think you look at the roster and it was clear, they didn't have the receiving talent for Josh Allen to throw to. They're throwing to Brandon Cooks, who I can't believe he's still playing in the league and couldn't hold on to that ball and was the OT interception.
Yeah, Shakir's an awesome slot receiver. I mean, Kincaid and Knox are good tight ends. A lot of consternation over the first-round pick that they used on Keon Coleman. And this was, I don't know, do you have the clip, Reem?
The Keon Coleman one? Yeah, I'm just bringing it up right now.
Like of this one from Pegula. So, I mean, the fact, he was a healthy scratch for a few games this year. Now, he did catch a touchdown in the game on the weekend, but also had a drop in the back of the end zone, which would have been a big play. And the guy just has not been reliable. He's been a bit of a bust pick. I mean, whatever, it happens. They were asking Pegula about this. And again, I guess a lot of the fans thought that maybe they got the wrong guy. The McDermott's consistently had this team contending each and every year. But the issue was with the roster construction on Brandon Beane. And Pegula was asked about this, and for some reason, and this is why I said at the start of the show, maybe the dumbest thing I've heard. Now, we'll take Jerry Jones out of the equation because he's an owner, but he's also the GM, and he never stops talking. So you could probably put a top 10 thing of dumb things that Jerry said into its own category. But for an owner not named Jerry Jones in any of the 4 major sports, to say what Pegula said today was one of the, frankly, it was just shocking. And he was backing his guy that he gave the promotion to, but essentially blamed the coaching staff for the selection of Keon Coleman, who I will remind you is still on the Buffalo Bills. Did you have the clip, Reem?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Okay, perfect. Here, this is from the press conference earlier today in Buffalo.
Yeah, can I interrupt? I'll address the Keon situation. The coaching staff pushed to draft Keon. I'm not saying Brandon wouldn't have drafted him, but he wasn't his next choice. That was Brandon being a team player and taking advice of his coaching staff, who felt strongly about the player. And he's taken, for some reason, heat over it and not saying a word about it, but I'm here to tell you the true story.
So there was Terry Pegula backing his guy Brandon Beane, blaming Sean McDermott at the same time, and running the bus straight over Keon Coleman, who is still on the Buffalo Bills. I couldn't help but laugh, Remo. A lot of these guys finish up the season, they do locker clean out, and then they get the hell out of town and go to Cancun or whatever. Can you imagine being Keon Coleman, maybe getting out of the pool, going over to check your phone, and seeing that out from the owner of the team that employs you as a professional sports athlete?
Yeah, he's still on the team, Huss, and you got the owner scapegoating him. It just was not a great look, Huss, for all this, for the owner coming in. I think it raises a lot of questions if you have the right people in place for this franchise to move forward and try to get to a Super Bowl. So close. They do fire the coach, but the GM who built the team seems to have a good relationship with Terry Pegula, which allowed him to stick around.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I'm sure Beane was mortified when Pegula opened his mouth and started going down that road. I mean, there's already been a clip from some behind-the-scenes Bills thing that they put out in and around that draft of them mic'd up and watching Coleman run his 40 at the Combine, and Beane saying, that's a total, that should help us get him. So, I don't know. I mean, I was talking about this with Lieutenant Eric, who's a big Bills fan, on the Lock Shop today. He was in for Dusty, and you wonder how the Sabres have gotten to be in this situation that they've been in for the last 14 years not making the playoffs. And I don't think it's a coincidence that, it's the Pegula-run organization. And I would argue that without McDermott, and listen, they nailed it on the Josh Allen pick. If they don't have Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills are probably just another team in the league run by a guy that doesn't really know how to run a pro sports franchise properly. Knows how to make a lot of money. He's a billionaire. They got the new stadium. I mean, all that's great. But I mean, to hear that about a player on the team roasting a coach that you just fired, apparently didn't talk to Josh Allen at all about it. This was all just news to Allen. And I'm sure he's sitting there wondering, what the heck's going on? And I'll be honest, I mean, Buffalo, smaller place, everyone knows what's going on with the Bills. Like, if you're a Sabres player, what are you thinking when you see that? Especially after having Kevin in accounting as your GM for the last 5 years before they finally went and turned it over to Yarmo, and the wins followed.
Yeah, I definitely some concern there with the owner throwing one of their players under the bus in a press conference. Not a great look. And I do wonder about the players there. It seemed like they all loved Sean McDermott. I don't know what the procedure is, but I think you would want to consult your franchise quarterback who's led you to all these leadership changes and just get their impression. It seemed like the decision was made very quickly, where he said, I saw how upset they were and had to make a change. And I don't know, I'm not sure how well thought out all this was, especially a press conference where you have interrupting and throwing a player, former first-round pick, under the bus. It's not the first time we've seen that. It's usually what I remember, was it Bob Nicholson throwing Toby Reeder with the Oilers under the bus a couple of years ago. So it does happen. But I don't know, it seems some turmoil there in Buffalo.
Let's get to the Chud's Power Sports Power Poll for the National Hockey League today. Shout out to the gang at Chud's Power Sports. Winter is here, and head on down to Chud's in Gimli at the corner of Highway 8 and 231 and get ready to dominate winter or look ahead to summer with big deals and bigger adventures waiting for you at Chud's Power Sports. And again, check out their new site online, chudspowersports.com, and the link there, or you can just go directly to truenorthparts.ca. No surprise, Avalanche class of the league, that's probably not changing. Tampa Bay has been the best team in the NHL over the past 4 to 5 weeks. They are the number 2 spot. And I mean, I can't ignore the Carolina Hurricanes anymore. Would they beat the Panthers 9-1 last week? Love that one. Shout out to Ehlers for a hat trick. Won me my fantasy week. So we're going to give Carolina the 3 spot. Listen, Dallas and Minnesota had basically been right there with Colorado all year long. Dallas is going to be in the 4 hole. And I don't know, maybe it's just enjoying the win that the Jets thumped the Wild on during that 4-game win streak last week, or the fact that they've fallen off of it a little bit. It was between Minnesota or Detroit, and I'm going to give it to Detroit. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10. They are in town on Saturday to take on the Winnipeg Jets, 14 games above 500, and looking to break their playoff drought, speaking of playoff droughts, and get into the playoffs. Wouldn't it be cool this year, Reem, if both the Red Wings and the Sabres were able to make it to the dance?
Yeah, congrats to Detroit. Kind of under the radar. I did pick up John Gibson, one of my fantasy leagues. He's having a great season with Detroit. And yeah, 6th in the NHL. As you mentioned, 7-2-1 in their last 10. And, talk about the turnover in the East. The teams are so close together. You have teams like Pittsburgh, who hasn't been in last year. Boston wasn't in last year. Buffalo wasn't in. Now there was Detroit. Montreal was in, but they're a higher seed now. And you see teams that have been in: Florida, New Jersey, Toronto, Washington, and even the Rangers at the bottom. A bit of a turnover there in the East, and I think it's very wide open. I think you got Tampa, or the division leaders, Tampa and Carolina, I think far ahead the rest, but we'll have to see how it goes. And the trade deadline makes it extra interesting. Everyone kind of thinks they're in it. Who's selling, who's buying. Maybe it gives a team like the Jets, who's looking to be a seller, an advantage if there's not as many of them.
Oh, you know what? I think you make a great point. There's going to be a bunch of teams that feel like they've got a good shot that might take a swing. And although you'd never want to be in that position, if you are there, that could be something that really helps Chevy at the deadline. I know we'll spend more time talking about the Wings on Friday, but as they've entered the Chuds Power Sports Power Poll, interesting to note that former Jet Andrew Copp is playing 2C for the Wings right now. And listen, we always talk about, every team needs a second line center. Every team's looking for a second line center. Pretty wild that Andrew Copp is playing 2C in between DeBrincat and Kane. He's got 30 points in 50 games. And listen, there's a lot of guys that can play 2C. Can you help teams win? And are you going to be successful with those guys there? And the record right now speaks for itself. Of course, Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond leading the way. But Andrew Copp, 5th in scoring for the Wings behind Raymond, DeBrincat, Larkin, and Sider. And Kane right there, too, although Kane was injured and has missed about 15 games. Love more on the Wings coming up on Friday's show. Tomorrow, though, we get ready to welcome back Paul Maurice and the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. Let's head over to the Coolbet lines for the night in the National Hockey League. What do we got tonight? We got the Wings and Leafs. Wings plus 105 in Toronto. Todd McClellan will have this team ready to go. I know the Leafs are going to say that they're looking at this like a playoff game. Huge game for both teams. Head-to-head matchup, 4-pointer, as they say. Leafs minus 123. Ducks a huge underdog in Colorado. Avalanche minus 323. Philly in Utah, taking on the Mammoth. Utah, only 2 games this week. They are minus 175 favorites. Pittsburgh Penguins, another team. We didn't think that we'd be talking about playoffs. They're looking good. They're in Calgary, minus 119 for Pittsburgh. Calgary plus 101. Islanders and Kraken later on tonight. Islanders a slight road favorite at minus 116. Seattle minus 101. And the Washington Capitals minus 167. Vancouver Canucks mired in 12 in a row, plus 141 at home. Lots of tennis going on right now at the Australian Open. Of course, we've got the Amex starting tomorrow on the PGA Tour. Talked about that with Pat yesterday. Scotty Scheffler, 3-1. The next guy, Ben Griffin, Russell Henley, 22-1. I mean, it really is Scotty Scheffler against the field when you set up this one. We talked about the picks earlier yesterday. Matty Fitzpatrick, 40-1. And where's our guy Akshay Bhatia, or Ashtray, as Tiger Woods called him, 66-1. Couple of the guys that we might take a little sprinkle on. Is the Greggy Golf special up? I'm sure it is. What does Pat have for today? Oh, maybe I missed it. No. We'll actually have to look for that a little bit later on, unless I just needed to refresh. Amex Super Boost, Scheffler top 10, Ludwig Oberg top 20. Boosted to plus 225, or 245, I should say. And Super Boost on just making the cut. Minwoo Lee, Siwoo Kim, and Canadian Taylor Pendrith. That's more than 2-1 as well. A whole bunch of props for tonight as well in the National Hockey League and on the hard court in the NBA over at coolbet.com. And I can't miss an opportunity to look ahead to the Scotties. And you all know I'm ride or die with Carrie Anderson, Team Anderson. They're Team Canada. They are a pretty significant favorite for this event. Even money, plus 100 for Canada to win as the women's champion. But some other Manitoba rinks. You've got the Laws rink as the second favorite, plus 450. Nova Scotia's at 550 to win. Northern Ontario plus 750. BC 9. A couple of the Alberta rinks. Sturmey 10-1. Skrillex, that's a really young team who I believe beat Holman at the Olympic qualifiers, if I remember correctly. They're 16-1. The Paterson rink from Manitoba also in it, 21-1. There's all sorts of interesting options, though, if you want to get in some pre-tournament bets. You can bet top 2, top 3s, top 4s for everyone to qualify from pool play or to not qualify from pool play. You got Group A and Group B winner bets, and you can bet exact placements, so to win silver, to win bronze, 4th, 5th, or 6th. Some other really interesting props. And if you just want to back the Manitobans, which would be Carey Anderson, along with the Paterson and Laws rink, minus 263 for Manitoba to be the province of the winning team. There's some exact final outcomes that you can get in on, exact final matchups. So our boy Hot Dog handles the curling over at Coolbet, and he is all over it. It is all there, locked and loaded. That gets underway on Friday. So get your bets in over at Coolbet. What's going on tonight, Remo? Nice to have a little off day before 2 more big games, Thursday and Friday down at Canada Life Center.
Yeah, my son's in a hockey tournament, so first one of those. We got that.
Tourney?
Tourney season, yeah. So we
Tonight?
Weekday game. So what is it? Only 5 o'clock, so I guess I'll have the whole evening after that. I don't know, catch up on some shows. Maybe Heated Rivalry. Got to get into that one, Huss.
Have you started watching it?
No, my wife's watching it, and I've seen a couple scenes.
What's Leah's take on it? Has she given her a review at all?
She said it took a couple episodes for her to get into it, but she was a fan.
She's into it?
I think she finished it.
You know what? I have to ask the chat. How many people have seen it? Heated Rivalry. Have any of you watched it? Have you watched one episode? Have you binged the entire thing? It is funny that it is kind of taken on a life of its own. Like, I can't tell you how many people, Reem, just in conversations out and about, have mentioned this. And frankly, some people that never in a million years did I think that, I guess from what I know, I haven't seen it yet, would I think that would be into it. But Gary Bettman said himself he loves it. And the fact that it's bringing some new eyeballs on hockey is a good thing for the NHL.
I think they had Heated Rivalry jerseys for the Senators. They were selling with the names from the show on the back. Sold out. So very, very popular, Huss.
Really? There was a funny... I mean, there's been some funny things online. People kind of trying to trick people into think that there was one thing that the Capitals were promoting, the potential last matchup between Ovi and Crosby as Heated Rivalry night. And they redid the picture from the show, I guess the promotion thing with Crosby and Ovechkin. And it was so well done. And it's so popular. I think a lot of people thought that was real. Not real. Speaking of not real, we should do a PSA before we go, Reem. Many of our brethren in sports media and a lot of people have been got big time and getting their accounts hacked on the old X, the Everything app.
I've seen a couple media members who've been tweeting about crypto. We had Dave McCarthy on talking about crypto on his account.
Dave took it.
He got it back. Steve Simmons was going on for a couple days. Cabby. So be careful. This is a PSA to all of our listeners. If someone DMs you a link, do not click on it. I'm sending out a company-wide email to you and Connor. Do not click on any links sent to Winnipeg Sports Talk or your own personal social media accounts. Do not click on any links.
Yeah, it's one that's like, hey, I'm up for an award or something like that. If you could please click on this. And I got one from Eric Stevens, the Iceman, down in Anaheim. And I guess it just goes in and spams all the people that you sent DMs to before.
Yeah.
And then, so anyways, don't click it, folks. If it looks fake, it is fake. And even if it might not be fake, it's probably fake. And the last thing you want to do is have all of your great crypto gains being tweeted out to everybody on X, knowing that is also not true and getting more people into the web of deceit.
Yeah, and before we go, one thing we should mention, Huss, that today is Bell Let's Talk Day for mental health. And as, I guess, former employees, I think I don't know if we're more authority to speak on this, but I've never seen like an advertising campaign that was so well received. I know they've given a lot of money to mental health, and everyone was tweeting about it. But for something to go from like 10 years ago, I mean, everyone was tweeting they were giving the 5 cents for every interaction, and it's so under the radar now. Like, I didn't hear about it. They kind of turfed their own campaign with, the repeated layoffs to their own employees. So
listen, if you work at Bell, what's Bell Let's Talk Day doesn't mean, oh, we're going to support mental health. It's going to mean watch your phone, because there might be a conference call in the next few days that you're expected to be on. And let me tell you that the conference calls usually aren't good news.
I mean, it's January 21 and our anniversary date, Feb 9. So this is kind of the, how it goes. I remember they did it right before we got laid off. It's just coming up on my timeline. So I keep seeing, but like it's just crazy how it was such a big thing before everyone was getting behind. And they have given a lot of money. So I'll give them that. But for a marketing campaign surrounding mental health that was so positive, seeming like such a great initiative, it's just like not visible at all anymore. Gets no engagement. People don't care.
Talking the talk and walking the walk. And it's great to have, like, to me, it was the most bullshit PR campaign of all time. Like, any billion-dollar business can make a big donation. They were trying to get all the goodwill that they were behind all this. They did it. And then the second it was over and they got all the credit for it, they go and fire everybody. I mean, it's a joke. So, I mean, they all of the negative PR that they got for it, they deserved every single bit of it. And listen, I mean, obviously everyone knows we were one of the thousands of Bell employees that ended up getting whacked. And I mean, I wouldn't trade a thing. I mean, this has ended up being the best thing that ever happened for us. We love it every day. We've got control over it. We don't have to deal with other people. We work directly with our sponsors. It's been the best thing that's ever happened to us. But unfortunately, there's a ton of really talented people that bit the bullet, that were forced into completely different occupations, had dream careers ended. And listen, it was a lot of decisions based, purely on dollars and cents. So listen, it was sort of it was a two-faced campaign that was trying to get a lot of good PR, did some good work. I mean, I won't deny that the awareness for mental health and stuff, there were some positives on it. But then to move on 2 weeks later and cut thousands of jobs, when many would agree probably some could have been saved, could have been changed. It is what it is. So I will say this, and you weren't at the game on Saturday, Reem. The reason why I knew it was Bell Let's Talk Day is that now they're trying to still make it Bell Let's Talk Day, but they know that the second they say anything about it, everyone just slams them for operating the way they have for so long. So at the Jet game on Saturday night against the Leafs, during one of the intermission breaks, or not an intermission break, sorry, a break in the game, like a TV timeout. I guess it was a Bell-sponsored promo, and it was Bell Let's Talk Day is January 21st, supporting mental health in Canada. And now, everyone, let's do a big Bell Let's Talk scream.
No, they did that at the game?
They did that at the game. And apparently, they encourage you to scream. It helps your mental health because it releases endorphins. I sat in my seat laughing my ass off that this is their pivot now to where they go with it.
I mean, Bell's a big sponsor of the Jets. They wear Bell on the helmet, so I imagine that's Jets are obligated to have that.
Oh, yeah.
But did anyone participate in the scream, or did it not go over well?
I mean, it was like no different than any other. Hey, everybody, make some noise, whatever. Okay. It wasn't like I think that was. And I mean, listen, it was already a banging crowd with the Jets and the Leaf fans there. I mean, I think it was in the second or third period things were going, so they just said a big scream. But I just laughed like, okay, that's now how we're promoting Bell Let's Talk Day, mentioning it, trying to do a little something with the tip to help you with your mental health and move on.
It was so big. It was on every channel. Like, we were having guests on. I remember they'd be pitching it to us. You don't even see it. No, they just tanked their own marketing initiative.
Yes, exactly.
I guess it was inevitable the way business is going. I don't know. Maybe they could have handled, firing people or laying people off better. Is there a good way? Is there a good way to handle that?
Probably not.
Maybe give them a heads up. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, at this point, like, I don't want to say who cares, because I mean, obviously, I care about people being able to continue their livelihoods. I care about mental health. I mean, it is an important thing. I mean, particularly for men. I mean, there's a lot of people that struggle with things and have a real tough time reaching out to people. So, I mean, that message is important. So, like, I hope that there still is some good that came out of it, but they cut themselves off at their own ankles with some of the way they've operated in and around Bell Let's Talk Day, while taking all the credit for being the champions of mental health. And then, as they say, there's a million stories about, we internally having maybe not handled things as well. But whatever, we're done with that. Let's move on. If you do have a friend in need, or if you do need to talk to someone, don't hesitate to reach out, talk to someone about it. And that hopefully will be the legacy of all that. But yes, today, Bell Let's Talk Day. What a way to end Winnipeg Sports Talk. Tomorrow is going to be a big game day show. The Panthers are in town. Look forward to that. I know is Weber on tomorrow or Friday?
Ken requested Friday, so we'll have Brandon on
Sweet
tomorrow, and I'm sure he's got a lot to say. He always does.
Oh yeah. No, listen, Ruick will be great. We'll get the latest. Speaking of guys who always have a lot to say, Paul Maurice is back in town. So, trust me, I'm sure we'll probably have plenty of options for some audio from the coach of the Visitors tomorrow. We'll make sure Connor gets in for that. And, of course, the latest from the Jets as they get ready. And we'll have more talk about the upcoming Alumni Game. Lots of great thoughts from everybody here in the chat today on some of the players that they would love to see join us here in October for the Alumni Game. Great to have Marat Tesh back. It was so much fun to talk to the new father. So happy for him. Sara Orlesky, of course, always brightens our day. Lots of fun talking to her. Thomas Milic as well. Folks, have a great one. I would suggest get outside because it's actually relatively nice outside right now. It's not going to be for the next 4 days. So if you have any reason or things that do call for leaving the house, do it now or be ready to pay the price in the next few days. That is going to do it for us. Thanks to all the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. All of you for making us a part of yours. Guests. And we'll fire it up again tomorrow before the lone visit of the Stanley Cup champion Panthers for the 25-26 season tomorrow right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Have a great night, everybody. Stay warm.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.